Yujin Kang stepped off his private jet at Paris airport after 18 hours of complete silence. He had not spoken a single word to anyone on the flight. Not to his assistant, not to his security, not to the pilot. The only person he wanted to talk to was 6 miles away in a limestone apartment building in the 7th arrondissement of Paris, and he had spent every single minute of that flight rehearsing what he would say to her. Her name was Amanda Price, and she had vanished from his life in Beverly Hills 4 months ago without a goodbye, without a note, without a single text message. One morning she was there. The next morning she was gone, her apartment emptied out, her phone disconnected, her entire existence erased like she had never been real. It took his people weeks to find her, weeks of dead ends and disconnected numbers and cold trails that led nowhere. But Yujin Kang was not a man who accepted dead ends. He was the CEO of Kang Global Industries, a South Korean conglomerate with a U.S. headquarters in Beverly Hills that operated in real estate, luxury hospitality, and technology. He sat on boards with senators. He closed deals that moved markets. He had built a reputation in American business circles as someone you simply did not outmaneuver. Not because he was violent or dangerous, but because he was relentless. When Yujin Kang decided something mattered, he did not stop until it was resolved. Amanda mattered. His 2-man security detail stayed in the black SUV parked on Rue de Grenelle. Yujin walked alone. He wanted this moment to be private. He carried nothing with him except a small velvet box in his coat pocket. Inside was a ring he had custom-made 3 months ago by a jeweler in Manhattan's Diamond District. A 4-carat oval diamond set on a platinum band. He had designed it himself, sitting in the jeweler's back office with sketches and specifications like he was planning an acquisition. In a way, he supposed he was. He was trying to acquire the rest of his life. The building was old and beautiful in the way Parisian buildings always were. Pale stone walls, wrought iron balconies, tall windows with wooden shutters. He climbed 3 flights of narrow stairs, and with each step, his heart beat harder. Yujin had sat across the table from billionaires trying to destroy his company. He had weathered hostile takeover attempts that lasted months. He had stared down boardrooms full of men who wanted to see him fail. None of it had ever made his pulse do what it was doing right now. He reached the door. Apartment 3B, he stood there for a moment, straightened his coat, and knocked. The door opened. A man stood in front of him, tall, well-dressed, black with kind eyes and a warm smile. He was wearing a wedding ring, a thick gold band that caught the hallway light. Behind him, sitting on a cream-colored sofa with her feet propped up on a cushion, was Amanda. Her hair was in long braids pulled up into a bun. She wore an oversized cashmere sweater that draped over her frame, and she was visibly, unmistakably pregnant, at least 6 months along. Her belly was round and full beneath the fabric, and one hand rested on top of it in that absent, protective way that pregnant women held themselves. Amanda looked up, her eyes locked onto Yujin's face. The color drained from her skin. The man at the door tilted his head. "Can I help you?" Yujin could not speak. His jaw was set so tight his teeth ached. He stared past the man at Amanda. She stared back at him with wide eyes and parted lips and something that looked like terror. The man looked over his shoulder at Amanda, then back at Yujin. "Babe, do you know him?" Amanda opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Yujin's hand tightened around the velvet box in his pocket. He felt the sharp corner of it press into his palm. He looked at the wedding ring on the man's hand. He looked at Amanda's belly. He looked at the apartment behind them, the shared life, the 2 pairs of shoes by the door, the framed photo on the side table of Amanda and this man standing together, smiling. He took 1 step back, then another. Then he turned around and walked down the stairs without saying a single word. Behind him, he heard Amanda's voice call out, "Yujin!" But he did not stop. He did not turn around. He walked out of the building and into the gray Paris afternoon, and for the first time in his adult life, Yujin Kang had absolutely no idea what to do next. "Now let me ask you something. If you flew across the world for someone you loved, carrying a ring you designed yourself, and you found them married and carrying someone else's baby, would you walk away that quietly? Or would you need answers first? Let me know your response in the comment section." Now, let's continue. 4 months before that doorstep in Paris, Eugene Kang's life looked completely different. He was 34 years old, lived in a penthouse on Wilshire Boulevard in Beverly Hills, and ran one of the most powerful business conglomerates in the Pacific Rim from its American headquarters. Kang Global Industries had its hands in luxury hotels across Aspen and Manhattan, commercial real estate developments in Palo Alto and San Francisco, and a technology division that was quietly becoming one of the most innovative in the industry. But the thing people whispered about was not the company. It was the family name. The Kang family had roots in Busan, South Korea, and those roots ran deep into territory most people did not talk about publicly. Eugene's grandfather had built the original Kang empire in the shadows: organized crime, power, fear, the kind of legacy that followed a name across generations and across oceans. Eugene's father had spent 20 years transitioning the family's wealth into legitimate global business. He had cleaned the money, restructured the operations, and built something real. By the time Eugene inherited the empire, it was legal in every sense of the word. But the reputation stayed. People still said the Kang name the way you say a loaded weapon, with respect, with caution, and Eugene never corrected them. The reputation was useful in boardrooms. It made negotiations shorter. It made competitors think twice. He did not live the life his grandfather lived, but he was not going to waste the fear his grandfather left behind. Eugene was intensely private. No social media, no magazine profiles, no public relationships. His inner circle consisted of exactly 2 people. Minyu, his head of security, who had been with him since their military service days in South Korea, and Sira, his executive assistant, a sharp Korean-American woman who managed his professional life with surgical precision and was not afraid to tell him when he was being unreasonable. That was it. That was his world. Business, silence, control. Until Amanda. Amanda Price was a 29-year-old registered nurse at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. She was a fair-skinned black woman with deep brown eyes and a quiet steadiness about her that made you feel like everything was going to be fine even when it clearly was not. She had grown up in Scottsdale, Arizona, raised by a single mother named Denise who worked 2 jobs to keep the lights on. Amanda had put herself through nursing school with scholarships and night shifts and sheer stubbornness. She was smart, capable, and deeply guarded in the way that people who had been abandoned learned to be. Her father had left when she was 7 years old, walked out the front door one Tuesday morning and never came back. No explanation, no phone call, no birthday card, nothing. Amanda had spent the next 22 years building a wall around her heart so thick that most people could not even tell it was there. She smiled. She laughed. She was warm with her patients and kind with her coworkers, but she did not let people in. Not really, because the lesson her father taught her was simple. People leave. The only question is when. Eugene met her because of a heart condition that ran in his family. His father had died of a cardiac event at 52. Eugene went to Cedars-Sinai once a year for a private cardiac screening, and that year, Amanda was the nurse assigned to his intake. She did not know who he was. She checked his blood pressure, asked standard medical questions, and wrote his answers on a clipboard without making eye contact more than necessary. When Sira tried to make special arrangements for the room, Amanda shut it down politely but firmly. "This is a hospital, not a hotel. He will be treated well, same as everyone." Eugene watched her handle Sira with a calm authority that most people could not manage. Sira was efficient and sometimes intimidating, and most people backed down. Amanda did not even blink. He asked her name, she told him. He asked her to dinner, she said no, she had a shift. He came back the following week for a follow-up appointment that he absolutely did not need. Amanda noticed. She almost smiled but caught herself. She still said no. He came back a 3rd time. No appointment, no medical pretense. He sat in the waiting area until her shift ended and simply asked if she wanted to get coffee. Not dinner, just coffee. She looked at him for a long moment and something shifted in her expression, something small, like a lock turning half a click. She said yes. Over the next 2 months, they built something neither of them expected. It started with coffee and turned into late-night phone calls that went on for hours. The phone calls turned into dinners at quiet restaurants where they sat in corner booths and talked until the staff started stacking chairs. Amanda resisted the extravagance of his world. She did not want his money, his cars, his penthouse. She wanted the man she saw when it was just the two of them. The man who got quiet when she talked about her patients who did not make it. The man who listened without trying to fix things. The man who once sat in his car outside her apartment for an hour after dropping her off because he was not ready for the night to end, and she saw his car from her window and came back outside in sweatpants and a hoodie and sat with him until the sun came up. They had not said, "I love you." Neither of them was built for easy declarations, but everyone around them could see it. Minyu saw it in the way Yujin checked his phone during meetings. Sira saw it in the way his schedule suddenly had gaps that never existed before. Amanda's coworkers at Cedars-Sinai saw it in the way her face changed when a certain black car pulled up to the hospital entrance. And then, without any warning, Amanda started pulling away. She canceled plans. She stopped answering calls on the first ring. She picked up extra shifts and used work as a wall. When Yujin pressed her on it, she deflected. She said she was tired. She said it was nothing. She said she was fine in that way people said fine when they were falling apart. Yujin did not push harder. He respected her space. He told himself she would come around. One morning, he drove to her apartment in West Hollywood. The front door was unlocked. The apartment was empty. Her furniture was still there, but every personal item was gone. Her clothes, her photos, the small cactus she kept on the kitchen counter, the coffee mug he had bought her that said "World's Okayest Nurse" that she pretended to hate but used every single morning. Gone, all of it. Her phone number was disconnected. No note, no voicemail, no message left with anyone. Amanda Price had vanished. Yujin did not sleep for 3 days. He did not panic outwardly because that was not how he was built. But Minyu, who had known him for 12 years, could see the cracks forming. Yujin stopped going to meetings. He sat in his penthouse office and stared at his phone. He replayed their last conversation over and over. He searched every word, every pause, every flicker in her eyes for the signal he missed. He told Minyu to find her, not aggressively, not as a show of power. He just needed to know she was safe. That was what he told himself, just that. Is she safe? Minyu traced her movements quickly. Amanda had flown out of Lax on a one-way ticket to New York JFK. She had stayed in Manhattan for 6 days at a hotel in Midtown. After that, she disappeared from all traceable records. Yujin flew to New York. He went to the hotel. He spoke with the front desk staff, and they told him a woman matching Amanda's description had checked out and left with a man. Tall, well-dressed, drove a black Mercedes. Nobody had a name, dead end. It was Sira who found the breakthrough. She dug deeper into Amanda's past and found a name that kept appearing in old social media posts and mutual connections. Peter Wilder. He was a 32-year-old investment banker based in Greenwich, Connecticut, one of the wealthiest towns in the entire country. Old money, private clubs, the kind of zip code where people measured worth in generations. Sira pulled up a photo of Peter and showed it to Yujin. Handsome, confident, the kind of man who had never been told no in his life. Yujin stared at the photo and said nothing. Then Sira showed him the marriage license, filed in Connecticut. 2 weeks after Amanda left Lowe's Angels, Amanda Price had married Peter Wilder. Yujin sat with that information for 3 days. He barely ate. He barely slept. He went to the gym at 3 in the morning and worked the heavy bag until his knuckles bled through the wraps. Minyu found him there once, standing in the dark with bloody hands, breathing hard, staring at nothing. Yujin made a decision. If Amanda chose someone else, he would respect it. He would let her go. He threw himself back into work with a ferocity that alarmed even Sira. He closed a massive real estate deal in Palo Alto worth $400 million. He opened a new luxury hotel in Aspen. He filled every hour of every day so there would not be a single quiet moment where her face could surface in his mind. It did not work, not even a little. 6 weeks later, Minyu walked into Yujin's office with new intelligence. Amanda and her husband had relocated to Paris. Peter had been transferred to his investment firm's European branch. They were living in the 7th arrondissement, near the Eiffel Tower. And there was something else. Amanda was pregnant. Minyu delivered this information and then stood in silence, watching Yujin's face. For a long time, Yujin did not move. He did not blink. He sat perfectly still behind his desk like a man made of stone. Then he stood up, put on his coat and said, "Prepare the jet." Minyu asked, "What are you going to do?" Yujin walked toward the door and said, "I need to see her face when she tells me why." After walking away from Amanda's apartment building, Yujin got into the black SUV on Rue de Grenelle and told the driver to go to the hotel. He did not speak for the entire ride. Minyu sat beside him and knew better than to fill the silence. At the hotel, a 5-star suite near the Champs-Élysées with a view of the Paris skyline, Yujin sat by the window and took the velvet box out of his pocket. He opened it. The diamond caught the last of the afternoon light. He looked at it for a long time, then set it on the windowsill and left it there. He did not throw it. He did not destroy anything. He just sat. Meanwhile, 6 miles across the city, Amanda was falling apart. The moment Peter left the apartment for work after the doorstep encounter, Amanda locked herself in the bathroom and sank to the floor. She cried harder than she had cried in months, pressing her face into a towel to muffle the sound, even though nobody was there to hear it. Seeing Yujin's face had wrecked her. Not just his face, but what was on it. He had come to that door with hope in his eyes. Actual hope. The kind of hope that a man like Yujin Kang did not give away easily, and she had watched that hope collapse into nothing in real time. She sat on that cold tile floor with her hands on her belly and whispered, "I am so sorry." Amanda's life in Paris was not what it appeared to be. The beautiful apartment, the attentive husband, the picture-perfect pregnancy. All of it was a carefully constructed lie, and she was trapped inside it. That night, after composing herself and cleaning her face, Amanda did something she did every night after Peter fell asleep. She opened the nightstand drawer on her side of the bed and pulled out a burner phone. A cheap prepaid device that Peter did not know about. She checked the balance of a bank account she had been secretly funneling small amounts of money into for weeks. She was not stealing from Peter. She was saving from the small personal allowance Constance Wilder allocated to her each month. Putting it away, dollar by dollar, for a day she was not sure would ever come. When she looked down at her wedding ring, there was no love in her eyes. There was no warmth, no gratitude, no partnership, just resignation. The look of a woman serving a sentence. She whispered to herself, "Just 8 more months, then it is over." That same night, 3 miles away, Yujin's phone buzzed on the nightstand of his hotel suite. An unknown number, a text message. It read, "She didn't leave you by choice. Ask about the prenup." Yujin stared at the message for a long time. He did not reply. He did not delete it. He set the phone down and looked back out the window at the Paris night. Something had shifted. The heartbreak was still there, heavy and raw, but now there was something else underneath it. A question. And Yujin Kang was the kind of man who did not leave questions unanswered. Yujin called Sira at 4 in the morning, Beverly Hills time. She answered on the second ring because Sira always answered on the second ring regardless of the hour. He told her to pull everything on Peter Wilder, not just his career, his finances, his family, his debts, his past relationships, everything. Sira called back 14 hours later with a file that changed everything. Peter Wilder came from old money in Greenwich, Connecticut. His family had been wealthy for 3 generations, but the real power in the Wilder family was not Peter. It was his mother, Constance Wilder. Constance was a sharp, controlled, image-obsessed woman who managed the family's public reputation the way a general managed a military campaign. Every move was calculated. Every relationship was vetted. Every potential scandal was identified and eliminated before it could breathe. But beneath the polished surface, the Wilder family was rotting. Peter had gambling debts, serious ones. He owed money to private lenders who charged interest rates that would make a loan shark uncomfortable. His position at the investment firm in Greenwich was unstable because an internal audit had uncovered irregularities in his accounts. The audit had been quietly buried thanks to family connections, but the damage was there, lurking. The Wilder family was one bad headline away from a very public unraveling. Then Sierra delivered the real bombshell. She had connected with a contact in family law who had managed to pull the general terms of Peter and Amanda's marriage arrangement. It was not a traditional prenuptial agreement. It was closer to a contract, a business deal dressed up as a marriage. The terms were these. Amanda would marry Peter and present the image of a stable, happy, picture-perfect family for a minimum of 2 years. In return, Constance Wilder would cover the complete medical expenses of Amanda's mother, Denise Price, who lived in Scottsdale. Denise had been diagnosed with stage 3 kidney disease 18 months ago. The condition required dialysis, specialist consultations, potential transplant surgery, and ongoing care that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Amanda's nursing salary could not touch it. The insurance was woefully insufficient. Amanda had been drowning in her mother's medical bills for over a year, working double shifts and still falling further behind every month. Constance Wilder had approached Amanda through Peter with an offer that was impossible to refuse. Marry my son, play the part, 2 years, and your mother lives. The catch was airtight. Amanda could not tell anyone about the arrangement, not friends, not family, not the man she was falling in love with. If she disclosed the terms of the contract to anyone, the deal was void and Denise would lose everything. Every treatment, every specialist, every dollar. Amanda had signed the contract because her mother was the only person in her life who had never left her. When Sierra finished delivering this information over the phone, Eugene was silent for a very long time. Sierra waited. She had worked for him for 7 years and she knew his silences. This one was different from the grief of the past few days. This one was focused. Finally, he spoke. Find me the best nephrologist in the country, today. Within 48 hours, Eugene had quietly assembled a medical team. His personal physician, a kidney specialist affiliated with the Mayo Clinic, reviewed Denise Price's case independently. Eugene then instructed his legal team to set up a medical trust fund in Denise's name. The trust was managed by an independent third party, a reputable firm with no connection to the Kang family or the Wilder family. The trust was fully funded and completely untouchable. If it was activated, Denise's medical care would be covered for life. Every treatment, every surgery, every dollar. No strings, no contracts, no Constance Wilder. But Eugene did not activate it yet, and he did not tell Amanda. Because he needed to know one more thing first. He needed to know who the father of that baby was. Amanda's life in Paris looked like something out of a magazine. A beautiful apartment in one of the most desirable neighborhoods in the world. A husband who wore tailored suits and spoke fluent French. Prenatal checkups at a top Parisian clinic. Morning walks along the Seine with her hand resting on her growing belly. Behind closed doors, the marriage was a performance, and Amanda was the only one in the cast who was actually trying. Peter did not love her. He was polite enough, considerate in the shallow ways that cost him nothing, but Amanda was a prop in a production directed by his mother. Constance Wilder video-called twice a week to monitor the arrangement. She told Amanda which social events to attend, what to wear, how to pose in photos that would end up on Peter's carefully curated social media. During one call, Constance told Amanda to smile more in the photos because, in her words, "You look angry, and that is not the image we are building here." Amanda endured it all because every week, she received a confirmation email from the hospital in Scottsdale that her mother's treatment was continuing on schedule. Denise was responding well to dialysis. She had been placed on the transplant waiting list. She was alive because Amanda signed that contract. But Peter was getting worse. The gambling had not stopped. He was drinking more, coming home late smelling like whiskey and perfume that did not belong to Amanda. She found receipts in his jacket pocket for dinners at restaurants she had never been to, always for 2 people. He was seeing someone. Amanda was not hurt by this. She was relieved. If he was distracted by someone else, he would leave her alone. He missed her ultrasound appointment. He forgot about a prenatal class they were supposed to attend together. When she mentioned it, He shrugged and said he had a work dinner. He did not apologize. Amanda did not argue. She just added it to the long list of things she swallowed and kept moving. But here was the thing the audience needed to understand. The detail that changed everything. Amanda was 6 months pregnant. She had left Beverly Hills 4 months ago, which meant she was already 2 months pregnant when she walked out of Eugen's life. The math mattered. Back in the United States, Eugen was not sitting idle. He had flown back to Beverly Hills to handle the medical trust and the legal preparation, but his mind never left Paris. Minu gave him updates on Amanda's movements, nothing intrusive, just confirmation that she was safe, going to her appointments, living her daily routine. Eugen activated the medical trust in Scottsdale, quietly, without fanfare. Denise Price's care shifted over to the new funding source seamlessly. The hospital noticed the change in billing and processed it without issue. Amanda did not know yet. Neither did Constance. Then Eugen booked a flight back to Paris. He was done waiting. 2 weeks after the doorstep encounter, Eugen returned to Paris. But this time he did not go to Amanda's door. He sat in a small cafe across the street from her building, wearing a simple black coat and a plain baseball cap, looking nothing like a man who controlled a billion-dollar empire. He ordered an espresso he did not drink and waited. 3 hours later, Amanda came out of the building alone. She was heading to a prenatal appointment at the clinic on Rue du Bac. She walked slowly, one hand on her belly, the other holding a canvas bag. She looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with pregnancy. She looked like a woman carrying something much heavier than a baby. Eugen followed at a careful distance. He did not approach her. He just watched. When she reached the clinic, she stopped outside and sat down on a bench. She pulled out her phone and opened a photo. Eugen was close enough to see the screen. It was a photo of him, one she had taken during their time together in Beverly Hills. In the photo, he was sitting on the hood of his car outside her apartment, looking up at the sky, laughing at something she had said. He remembered that night. She had told him he looked too serious all the time and that his face might crack if he smiled. He had laughed, and she had taken the photo before he could stop her. Amanda stared at that photo for a long time. Then she put her phone away, took a deep breath, and walked into the clinic. Eugen stayed on that bench. He did not move. The espresso was cold. The Paris afternoon was gray and damp, but something inside him had shifted. She still had his photo. She still looked at it. Whatever had happened, whatever choices she had made, she had not erased him the way she had erased everything else. When Amanda came out of the clinic 40 minutes later, Eugen was standing beside the bench. She saw him and stopped in her tracks. For a moment, neither of them moved. People walked past them on the sidewalk. A woman pushed a stroller. A man walked a dog. The world kept going. Amanda spoke first. "You should not be here." Eugen did not move. "When were you going to tell me?" "Tell you what?" "That you were already pregnant before you left." The question hung in the air between them. Amanda's face changed. The composure she had been wearing like armor cracked, and underneath was something raw and terrified. "It does not matter," she said quietly. Eugen stepped closer. His voice was low and steady. "Is the baby mine?" Amanda looked at him, and her eyes answered before her mouth did. They filled with tears, and her hand moved to her belly in that protective gesture he had seen through the doorway 2 weeks ago, and she nodded. She nodded. Eugen exhaled like a man who had been holding his breath for 4 months. They sat on the bench together, and Amanda told him everything. Not in a clean, organized confession, but in broken fragments that came out sideways, sentences interrupted by tears and long silences and the sound of her breathing. She told him about her mother's diagnosis, about the medical bills that were swallowing her alive, about Peter reappearing at the exact worst moment, offering a way out that was really a way in, into a cage she could not escape. She told him she had found out about the pregnancy right before Constance's offer came. She was terrified. She was a Black woman from a modest background carrying the child of one of the most powerful Korean businessmen in the country. She did not know how his family would react. She did not know what his world would do to her or to their child. She had spent her whole life being left by people she trusted, and the idea of bringing a baby into a situation where she might be discarded was more than she could bear. So when Constance's contract landed in front of her, Amanda made a calculation. She could save her mother. She could let Peter believe the baby was his because the timing was close enough to be plausible. She could endure 2 years and then walk away. She never planned to keep Eugen's child from him forever. She told herself she would tell him eventually. But eventually became, after the contract ends, and the walls kept getting higher and the lie kept getting bigger, and now she was sitting on a bench in Paris with the father of her baby, unable to undo any of it. When she finished, Eugen was quiet. Then he said one thing. "I already took care of your mother." Amanda stared at him. "What?" He told her about the medical trust. Denise's care was fully funded, independently, permanently, no strings, no Constance, no contract. Amanda's hands started shaking. "You did that. You did that without even knowing if the baby was yours." Eugen looked at her. "I did it because she is your mother. That was enough." Amanda broke. She covered her face with both hands and sobbed on that bench in Paris. But these tears were different from the ones she had been crying for 4 months in that apartment. These were not tears of exhaustion or fear or loneliness. These were the tears of a woman who had just discovered that someone chose her without a contract. Someone stayed without being paid to. Eugen put his hand on her back and let her cry. Amanda went home that afternoon and something about her was different. Peter noticed it immediately. She was calmer, steadier. There was a stillness in her that had not been there before. When Constance called for her weekly check, in that evening, Amanda did not pick up. She looked at the phone ringing on the kitchen counter, and she let it ring. Peter watched her do this with wide eyes. "You know she is going to lose her mind." Amanda said, "Let her." Peter reported the missed call to his mother. Constance did not like it. She liked it even less when it happened again 2 days later. Something was wrong with the arrangement, and Constance Wilder had not maintained control of her family for 3 decades by ignoring warning signs. She sent someone to Paris to observe Amanda. Within a week, the report came back. Amanda had been seen talking to an Asian man outside a prenatal clinic on Rue du Bac. They had sat together on a bench for over an hour. Constance had her people identify the man. When the name came back, Constance sat in her Greenwich study and read it 3 times. Eugen Kang, Kang Global Industries, the Kang family of Busan. Constance knew exactly what that name meant. She understood the history, the weight, the reputation. For a brief moment, she hesitated. Constance Wilder did not hesitate often, but the Kang name was not something you brushed aside casually. Then she straightened her spine, picked up her phone, and booked a flight to Paris. Constance Wilder had been fighting wars of reputation and control for longer than Eugen Kang had been alive, and she was not about to lose one now. She arrived in Paris on a Tuesday and went directly to the apartment while Peter was at work. Amanda opened the door and found her mother-in-law standing there in a gray cashmere coat and pearl earrings with an expression that could freeze water. Constance did not waste time on pleasantries. She walked into the apartment, sat down on the sofa like she owned it, which she technically did since she paid the rent, and told Amanda exactly what would happen if she broke the arrangement. She would pull the medical funding immediately. She would use her connections to challenge Amanda's nursing license in every state where she was certified. She would bury her professionally. And she would fight for custody of the baby, claiming that Amanda had entered a fraudulent marriage and deliberately misrepresented the paternity of a child, which made her an unfit mother. Amanda stood in the middle of her own living room and listened to all of it. Then she said something Constance did not expect. "My mother's care is already handled. You have no leverage." Constance's expression flickered, just for a second. Then the smile came back, cold and practiced. "You think money is the only leverage I have? I have your marriage certificate. I have your signature on a contract. I have documentation that you committed fraud by misrepresenting the paternity of a child within a legally binding marriage. You want to go to war with me? I have been at war longer than you have been alive." After Constance left, Amanda called Eugen. She told him everything Constance had said, Every threat, every angle, every piece of leverage the woman claimed to hold. Yu-jin listened without interrupting. When Amanda finished, there was a long pause on the line. Then Yu-jin said, "I will handle it." Within 24 hours, Yu-jin assembled the best legal team money could access. Family law attorneys from Beverly Hills, international law specialists from New York. He called in a personal favor from a college friend who worked in financial regulation and asked him to run a deep analysis of the Wilder family's financial structure. The results confirmed what Sierra had already found, and then some. Peter's gambling debts were extensive and partially concealed through shell accounts. The internal audit at his firm had been buried, but not destroyed. There was enough financial irregularity in the Wilder portfolio to trigger a full investigation if the right people were notified. But Yu-jin's legal team focused on something else: the marriage contract itself. The document Constance had used to trap Amanda was coercive by nature. Amanda had signed it under financial duress, facing the potential loss of her mother's life-saving medical care. The fraud was not Amanda's. The fraud was Constance's. She had orchestrated a contractual marriage under duress to protect her family's crumbling reputation. And Sierra found something even more damaging. This was not the first time Constance had done this. 8 years ago, she had arranged a similar marriage for Peter's older brother, Harrison. Harrison's wife, a woman named Camille, had been in a nearly identical arrangement. Camille had eventually left the marriage, but she had signed a non-disclosure agreement and disappeared from public life. Sierra tracked her down. Camille was living in Portland, Oregon. She was willing to talk. Yu-jin also did something unexpected. He contacted Peter directly and asked to meet. Man to man, no lawyers, no security, just a conversation. They met at a quiet restaurant in the 8th arrondissement. Two men sitting across from each other with nothing between them but the truth. Yu-jin did not threaten Peter. He did not raise his voice. He told him plainly that the baby Amanda was carrying was not his. He told him the marriage was built on coercion and that it was going to end one way or another. Peter was quiet for a long time. He stared at his glass. Then he said something that surprised even Yu-jin. "I know." Peter admitted he had suspected for weeks. The timeline had never fully added up. Amanda never let him come to doctor appointments. She flinched whenever he touched her belly. He had chosen not to question it because questioning it meant confronting his mother, and he had spent 32 years avoiding exactly that. "I do not love her," Peter said. "I never did, not the way you clearly do. I married her because my mother told me to. That is what I do. I do what she tells me. I have been living her life since I was 12 years old, and I am tired." He agreed to cooperate. He would sign whatever papers were needed. He would not fight the annulment. He would step aside. But he warned Yu-jin. "My mother will not stop just because I do. She will come for both of you. She will burn it all down before she admits she lost." Yu-jin nodded. "Let her." Constance made her final play within days. She contacted media outlets with a story she had carefully constructed. The headline she pitched was designed to destroy Yu-jin's reputation. "Korean business mogul from crime family targets married American woman." She framed Yu-jin as a predatory figure, using his family's underworld history to terrorize an innocent family and steal a married woman from her husband. A tabloid in New York picked it up. The story was hours from publication. But Yu-jin's team moved faster. His attorneys released a counter-statement backed by documentation. The coercive marriage contract, the financial manipulation, Peter's hidden debts, the Wilder family's pattern of using arranged marriages to manage public image. And Camille, Harrison Wilder's ex-wife, provided a sworn statement corroborating the pattern. The tabloid killed the original story. 2 other outlets picked up the real story instead. The headline read, "Wealthy Connecticut family accused of coercive marriage scheme." Constance Wilder was cornered. Her attorney called her and said 5 words she had never heard in her life. "You are going to lose." The annulment moved quickly. Peter cooperated fully just as he had promised. The legal grounds were clean: coercion, fraud in the formation of the contract, misrepresentation. Constance's attorney negotiated a settlement that included a mutual non-disclosure agreement. In exchange for the Wilder family's remaining secrets staying private, Constance agreed to walk away. No custody fight, no license challenges, no media games. Constance signed the agreement in her Greenwich study with her jaw clenched so tight her attorney thought she might crack a tooth. She was furious, but Constance Wilder was, above everything else, a pragmatist. She knew when a war was lost. She signed the papers, dismissed her attorney, and sat alone in her study for a very long time. Peter, to his credit, found Amanda before she left Paris and apologized. It was not a grand gesture. He did not drop to his knees or make a speech. He just stood in the apartment while she packed her bags and said, "I am sorry I was not strong enough to say no to her a long time ago. You deserved better than this." Amanda looked at him and said, "So did you." Peter checked himself into a treatment program for gambling addiction the following month. He also started therapy for the first time in his life. They were the first two decisions he had ever made entirely for himself. Amanda flew to Scottsdale before going anywhere else. She walked into her mother's hospital room at the medical center and found Denise sitting up in bed, looking stronger than she had in over a year. The transplant match had come through. Surgery was scheduled for 2 weeks out. The medical trust Eugene had established was covering everything seamlessly, and the hospital staff treated Denise like a priority patient because the funding was reliable and comprehensive. Denise looked at her daughter standing in the doorway. She looked at Amanda's belly, round and full at nearly 7 months. She looked at Amanda's hand, where the wedding ring was conspicuously absent. "You going to tell me what really happened?" Denise said. "Or do I have to guess?" Amanda sat in the chair beside her mother's bed and told her everything. All of it. Peter, Constance, the contract, the medical bills, Eugene, the baby, the lies she told to keep her mother alive. Denise listened to the entire story without interrupting. When Amanda finished, Denise reached over and took her daughter's hand. "Baby," Denise said, "you have spent your whole life being afraid that people are going to leave you. And because you are so scared of being left, you keep leaving first. You left that man before he could leave you. But here is the thing. He did not leave. He flew across the ocean. He paid for my care without being asked. He set up a trust fund for a woman he never met just because she is your mother. Amanda, you stop running. You hear me? You stop." Amanda nodded with tears running down her face. Denise squeezed her hand and added, "Now bring him here to meet me. I need to check his handshake. I do not trust a man with a weak handshake." 2 days later, Eugene flew to Scottsdale. He walked into Denise's hospital room in slacks and a simple button-down shirt. No entourage, no security, just a man meeting the mother of the woman he loved. He extended his hand. Denise took it and squeezed hard. Eugene did not flinch. Denise nodded. "Firm grip, that is a good start. Sit down." She poured him sweet tea from a pitcher on her bedside table and spent the next 2 hours asking him questions that had nothing to do with business or money. She asked about his family. She asked about his parents. She asked if he could cook. Eugene told her he could make Korean food. Denise said that was good because Amanda could not boil water without setting off a smoke alarm. Amanda protested from the corner of the room. Neither Denise nor Eugene acknowledged her protest. Denise asked Eugene what his intentions were. He told her honestly. He wanted to be in Amanda's life. He wanted to be in the baby's life. He wanted to earn both of those things, not buy them. Denise studied his face for a long moment. Then she said, "My daughter is stubborn and scared, and she has got walls higher than any building you have ever bought. But she is worth it. You hear me? She is worth every wall." Eugene said, "I know." 3 months later, Amanda was back in the United States, living in a townhouse in Beverly Hills that Eugene had found for her. Not his penthouse, her own space. He had insisted on that. She needed to feel like she chose this life, not that she was absorbed into his. She needed to wake up every morning in a place that was hers and make the decision to let him in on her own terms. He was there every day. He drove her to appointments. He assembled the baby crib himself and did such a terrible job that Minu had to take it apart and redo the entire thing, while Eugene watched with his arms crossed and refused to admit he had put 3 panels on backwards. He read articles about infant care with the same intensity. He read quarterly financial reports, highlighting sections and taking notes in the margins like he was preparing for a board presentation on newborn sleep cycles. Sierra bought the baby more clothes than any child could wear in 2 lifetimes. When Amanda told her it was too much, Sierra said, "This child is going to be the best-dressed infant in the state of California, and that is not negotiable." The baby was born at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, the same hospital where Eugene and Amanda had met. A girl, 7 pounds, 6 ounces, a full head of black hair, fair skin with warm undertones. She had Eugene's eyes and Amanda's mouth. Amanda held her in the hospital bed, exhausted and glowing, and looked up at Eugene standing beside her. He was crying. Tears ran down his face without shame or apology. Minu, standing by the door, looked away to give him privacy but was also definitely tearing up himself, though he would deny it later under oath. Amanda said, "What do we name her?" Eugene said, "Whatever you want." Amanda thought for a moment. "Hana, it means one in Korean, because she brought 2 people back into one." Eugene touched the baby's tiny hand. Hana gripped his finger with the surprising strength that newborns have, the reflex that evolution built into them to hold on. She held his finger and did not let go. Eugene reached into his pocket and pulled out the velvet box, the same one from Paris, the same one he had been carrying for months, through heartbreak and investigation and revelation and war. He set it on the hospital blanket beside Amanda. "You do not have to answer now," he said. "You do not have to answer this year, but whenever you are ready, I am not going anywhere." Amanda opened the box. The diamond caught the overhead hospital light and threw tiny fractured rainbows across the blanket. She looked at the ring. She looked at Eugene. She looked at Hana, still gripping her father's finger. She put the ring on her finger. "I am done running," she said. 6 months later, a Sunday afternoon in Beverly Hills, Amanda and Eugene's home, a house they had chosen together, not his penthouse, not her townhouse, something new, something that belonged to both of them. Hana was crawling across the living room floor with the determined, wobbly urgency of a baby who had recently discovered mobility and was now unstoppable. Denise was visiting from Scottsdale, healthy and post-transplant, and sitting on the couch arguing with Minu about which NFL team was better. Denise was a Cardinals fan. Minu, who had adopted American football with the fervor of a convert, was backing the Rams. Neither of them was going to budge, and the argument had been going on for 45 minutes with no signs of resolution. Sierra was in the kitchen attempting to make kimchi from a recipe she had pulled up on her phone. It was not going well. The kitchen smelled like a combination of ambition and mild panic. Amanda stood in the doorway between the kitchen and the living room, holding a cup of coffee, wearing the ring. She watched the chaos of her life unfold in front of her, her mother laughing on the couch, Minu gesturing passionately about defensive formations, Sierra cursing quietly at a jar of gochugaru, Hana trying to eat a shoe. Eugene came up behind her. He wrapped his arms around her waist and rested his chin on her shoulder. "Your daughter just tried to eat a shoe," Amanda said. "She has good taste," Eugene said. "Those were expensive." Amanda laughed, a real laugh, the kind that came from somewhere deep and felt like it weighed nothing at all, the kind she had forgotten she was capable of. Eugene held her tighter. He looked at the room in front of him, the noise, the people, the mess, the life. He thought about the version of himself who had stood on a Paris doorstep 4 months ago with a ring in his pocket and a heart that was breaking. That man had walked away. This man stayed. And he was never leaving.